In the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, give me Jesus. You may have all this world, give me Jesus. Oh, when I am alone, oh, when I am alone, oh, when I am alone, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, give me Jesus.
Grace and peace from God our Father, I greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to bring our house into your house, for all of us represent and make up the household of faith. I'm especially excited to be able to enter into your homes and to celebrate our Justice and Legislative Weekend. That's right, Super Bowl Sunday is for us a time in which we focus on issues of justice, and it's an opportunity for us to hear from our elected officials as well as those who are leading some of our civil rights organizations. And so over the next couple of weeks, in lieu of our formal gathering as we would traditionally, you will be able to take a listen in at some of the conversations that I'm having with some of the individuals that are on the front line, as well as individuals who have been elected and are working on issues of policy each and every day. I'm especially excited today to have with us a very special guest, a recent recipient of our 2022 Spirit of King Award. And I'm delighted to introduce Karen Campblin, who is the president of the Fairfax County chapter of the NAACP. Thank you, Karen, so much for being with us and to consenting to be a part of this conversation series. And let me also just take this moment to thank you for your contributions to the fight for justice. I know you spend countless of hours working on these issues without pay, but they are heart issues for you. And so I want you to know how appreciative we are for your commitment.
Well, thank you. And it's really great to be here. And first and foremost, I also would like to thank you, your guidance, your leadership, and your support of the branch and helping us out with our issues is very, very impactful. And it's very appreciated by our membership and our executive committee.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to have you with us, and I'm ready just to jump right into the conversation. Let's just begin by finding a little bit about who Karen is. How did you gravitate to this work? Was there anything in particular that led you to this work of advocacy? And then we'll talk a little bit about the branch.
Oh, that's great. Yes. So I came here in mid-2000, like around 2012, and I started working as a fellow with the Obama campaigns. And I really got involved in that just because of the medical issues. At the time, I had 2 elder parents, and just seeing what the elder community was going through in order to have access to affordable medical care.
So firsthand experience.
Yes, no one should have to go and lose their life savings in order to lead a healthy and quality life.
Wow. And so that was the niche for you. That's what brought you to the work.
Reeled me in.
Wow. So tell me, you started working through the Obama initiative. What brought you to the Fairfax County branch?
Well, after that, I guess I was hooked. I was just reeled in, right? So I started networking with people, started hearing things, started hearing other issues within the community
Wow.
that needed attention. And so I got involved with the Fairfax County NAACP
Wow.
because I wanted to work within the Black community
Okay.
and be able to help the Black and Brown population. I was still involved with other organizations such as Sierra Club, but I also wanted to have a focus on issues that were closer to my home,
Right.
so to speak.
And I noticed you said Sierra Club, and I also know that the environment is a real passion of yours personally, which is actually how I met you.
Yes.
So now you are president of the Fairfax County chapter of the NAACP. Tell us a little bit about the chapter. How old is the chapter? How large is the chapter? And what are some of the things that the chapter is currently working on?
Wow. Yes. So the Fairfax County chapter was chartered in 1944.
Oh, wow.
It was the first rural branch here in Virginia.
Okay.
And, it was started by Dr. Henderson, who has, his son is also still here in Alexandria. Wow. And Ed Henderson runs the Tinner Hill Foundation.
Okay.
That has some really excellent historical programs and focuses on the major contributions of the
Wow.
Black community in Fairfax
Wow.
County. So
And
we've
a part of
always
history is
been
still alive.
It's still alive.
Right,
We're
right.
still connected, and we
Okay.
still, history and accurate historical interpretation is
Okay.
so important to both organizations, both NAACP.
That's powerful.
Yes.
Powerful. So I know that there obviously is a lot of work that the national organization is doing, but clearly there are a ton of local issues that have caught the attention of the branch. I do know also that the branch is broken down into several committees. And so can you tell us a little bit about what some of the committees are and the work that the committees are actually engaged in at this moment?
Yeah, let me run through all of them because they all do such amazing work.
Okay.
And that's where all the work is done within our
That's
communities.
the ground.
That's our ground.
That's ground zero, right?
That's
Okay.
ground zero.
Right.
And so we have committees that deals with armed forces and our veterans issues.
Wow.
So making sure there's access to medical and affordable housing.
Okay.
We've got affordable housing. And that is a big issue. Mary Patton's been leading this, particularly since COVID. We've got a lot of people
Who've been displaced.
they've lost their income. So making sure that our
Wow.
families are not being evicted.
Wow.
Trying to protect against eviction and making sure everybody has access to safe and clean, affordable housing. And, and making sure those development pressures that impact property value does not, gentrify and displace our Black and Brown communities. And so that's a big issue right now.
So without question, what you would dare say that you've seen a lot of the impact in the Black and Brown community in terms of COVID and housing.
Yes.
Okay.
And we, there was an eviction moratorium for a while.
And that is no more. It's been lifted.
That's been lifted.
Moratorium's
So
lifted.
there's
So
a lot of eviction cases.
and so there's a
going
lot of
through.
consequence as a result of the moratorium being lifted.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And we've got, there are committee members, volunteers are going and they provide information to those going through the process, trying to get them to the right resources,
Wow.
making sure they're properly represented. They would even go down into the courts and just provide support
Right.
to families and individuals as their cases are being called.
Right.
And again, we do not provide legal representation, but we
Okay.
do provide those technical resources
Okay.
that are so important to families. And it's really hard for families to be able to, navigate through this process, which has a lot of red tape.
You're literally helping to interpret the process and systems for people who this is brand new for.
Brand new and
Right.
going through an emotional turmoil.
Wow.
I can't even imagine being able to look at a page and comprehend and understand what it says as I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put my head
Right.
down the next day, or that very night.
That has to be difficult. Has to be.
So
extremely
they
difficult.
need support,
Okay.
and we try to give it as much as we can. And then we also have education, which
Okay.
is, and so our education committee is comprised of a lot of different subcommittees, and one of its main campaigns is a literacy campaign, making sure that our children are able to read and comprehend There, there's instructions.
Wow.
There are books. There are textbooks that understand their exercises. If you don't understand what you're reading at an early age, your entire academic career is going to be
You're left behind.
severely.
Right.
That's yeah.
You
exactly.
are definitely left behind.
Yes.
The basic principles, bare minimum, you have to learn how to read.
And then just making sure that our students are able to learn in an encouraging and welcoming environment. So we get a lot of discrimination cases from some of our students, and so we want to make sure that our students
From the education committee.
Yeah, it comes through.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow,
And
okay,
so we have to
okay.
make sure our students are protected,
Wow, wow. Even in Fairfax County.
even in Fairfax County.
Okay. So, and that's different than the legal redress. Is that a committee or is that?
That is a committee,
Okay.
and that is different.
I don't know where I pulled that from, right?
And I love that you pulled it.
Yeah.
And then it was a perfect segue. Yes,
Okay.
we have a legal redress, and this is when people would call into the branch and provide information about their civil rights being violated.
Okay.
Again, we do not provide legal representation, but again, we help navigate. We
Okay.
help these individuals and families navigate through the system and get them to where they need to be.
So Karen, I would dare say that there's some people who are asking the question in 2022, what's the NAACP doing? Why should I be involved? I don't see them. I don't hear from them. But those are a lot of committees that you've just named. And you just talked briefly in those few minutes, talked about some great work that's being done. So if individuals, A, have some needs that they would like the NAACP to address, how would a person, who has an educational need, where would they start? How would they bring this to your attention or to the chair's attention of that particular committee?
Oh, that's a great question. We've got a website,
Okay.
we've got a Facebook page, and we have an Instagram and Twitter account. And
Okay.
you can visit us online at fairfaxnaacp.org. And we've got everybody's information on there. They can even
Right.
write me directly at president@fairfaxnaacp.org.
And that will come directly to
And
you.
it will come to me, or
Okay.
they can reach out to our membership committee, which is another great committee
Right.
that is a welcoming committee that provides everybody with the information about all the different committees, information on how they can get involved, help them with their membership card and those types of things. And they can reach out to Diana Rhodes at
Right.
membership@fairfaxnAacp.org.
And what's required to become a member of the NAACP?
Oh, well, our membership is $30 a year.
$30. That's all it takes.
That's all it
$30. Okay.
And we also have opportunities for a lifetime membership.
Mhm.
And we also accept corporate sponsorships.
Okay.
And of course, we always accept donations.
All right. So a person can become a member of the NAACP today in this moment. They're watching this broadcast. They can go right to your website
Yes.
and pay their membership fee. And then can anybody join a committee?
Yes, yes. Once they go online to our online form,
Right.
there is a question that says, what are you interested in?
Wow.
And it lists all of our committees. I only mentioned a few of them, but we've got a lot more issues that we work on.
Okay.
And they can mark it, and the information goes directly to our secretary
Right.
and our membership chair. And our membership chair will then reach out to them and just talk to them and make sure that we find the right place
Right.
and get them directly connected with the committee chair.
Okay.
Smooth operation.
Right. So I know that the NAACP is a nonpartisan organization, but you do stress the importance of participation in a democracy, which simply means you encourage people to vote. What are some of the reasons that you give people as to why they should vote?
My first reason is, if you don't like what you see, there's something you can do about it.
Okay.
And one of the things you can do is air your concerns and your voice at the ballot box.
Wow.
Right? If you don't like who's in office, you can vote them out. And that's a way to make sure they understand these are the values that are
important to me.
That are important to you.
Okay.
So our political action committee is in charge of that. So it has a voter registration program where we go out and make sure everybody's registered to
Right.
vote or knows where they're supposed to go to vote, right? And now that we've redistricted, there's some lines that have shifted.
Right.
And so that's going to be a huge education program that's going to be launched soon to make sure everybody knows who their elected officials are
Okay.
due to these redistricted. Where is your polling location, right?
Right.
And always make sure you have a plan to vote before election day.
Right.
Right. So if you know that you're going to have to be in DC on election day, there's no way you can trust yourself of being back in time before polls close. There is early voting.
Mm-hmm.
There is weekend voting.
Right.
Right. There's so many different ways to be able to vote before election day.
So Karen, you're talking about all of these different ways to vote, and you've shared us very clearly why you think it is important for people to vote. But I believe there's some, we're still wrestling with nationally this conversation about the Voting Rights Act. And if I recall, there's been some discussion even in Virginia state legislature about, voting and access to voting. So, what advice? Obviously, people have to be in tune to know what the issues are. Is the branch or locally or statewide, nationally speaking to some of these issues, whether we're talking about the national voting rights or even some of the conversation that's taking place on the state level?
Yes, that's great. So on our national level, we've got the Washington Bureau that's being led by Hillary Sheldon.
Okay.
And he does all of that. He, speaks with the congressman,
Right.
advocate for what we need. But here in Virginia, on a state level, we have the Virginia State Conference, NAACP.
Okay.
And the same committees that are on a local level is also on a state level. So there's also a political action committee on the state level. And it is the state political action committee that really focuses in on state legislature.
Okay.
And so right now we're actually in session. We're
Yes,
getting ready
we
to
are.
go to crossover on February 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of bills that are going that we either agree with or we oppose.
Mm-hmm.
There are bills such as the
Now, you said crossover. We want to make sure the audience understands what that means.
Oh, yes.
Right.
So when the General Assembly went into session, the House side had their set of bills, and the Senate side had their set of bills. And it went through committee and they passed. So whatever passed from the full floor and the House and the Senate now switches.
Okay.
And they have to go through the same process
Gotcha.
on the other side. So on February 12th, the bills from the Senate are going to go to the House, and the House is going to go to the Senate.
Okay.
And then they're going to go through committee and go through the full
Same
floor to vote.
process.
Same process.
Okay.
And so we're tracking a lot of those. There are a lot of bills that are out there that are intended to do away with a lot of the work that we did and we were able to accomplish in 2020 and 2021. In addition to some bills that we need to make sure are protected. One of the big bills that we really want to protect and we really want to make sure it passes is the constitutional amendment for restoration of voting rights for returning citizens.
Okay.
Because it's a constitutional amendment, it has to go through the General Assembly twice. It passed last year.
Okay.
It needs to pass this year in order to get on the ballot. If it fails this year,
It
we're going to
dies.
have it dies.
Start all over again.
Start all over again.
Wow.
And
so
this is so important.
So obviously you all are advocating for this. Is there anything that individuals who are watching can do to add their voice to this
Yes.
constitutional amendment?
Yes, and I'm really glad you asked because our state political action, we have these things called legislative action alerts, in which we send out tweets, texts,
Okay.
emails, and we say, call your legislator
Right.
and tell them to support this bill.
Okay.
And anybody, because we elected them into office. So anybody can call their elected official,
Right.
their delegate or their senator,
And let them know your feelings,
them-
your thoughts.
let them know. I want you to vote yes when this constitutional amendment comes to the floor.
So in order to get on that text list, they could probably go to the state's website of the NAACP?
Yes, at naacpva.org.
Okay, all right. So if
Yes.
you want the alerts, if you want the action points, go to the state NAACP website and register, and you'll get those text alerts.
You'll get those text alerts.
All right.
Yes.
We can really go on and on and on about a number of issues, but I want to talk a little bit about criminal justice, because I know you've been doing a lot of work in the area of criminal justice right here, specifically in Fairfax County.
Yes.
Several years ago, there was a release of a report, and it basically, gave us numbers as relates to the impact of policing, specifically on Black and brown people. And so I want to talk a little bit about, I know you've been working with some task force and looking at these data points, and you said earlier, everything you do is driven by data points, which,
Data points.
we're really glad to hear. So you have, factual information.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about what's happening in terms of criminal justice now.
Well, our criminal justice committee, our committee chairs are Luke Lavoisier
Mhm.
and Carrie Brown, and they've been working with their data and transparency team, which is being led by Matthew Sode. But just looking at the data, we're working with Fairfax County, we're working with the supervisors,
Right.
and part of it is we need to be able to understand the data. If we have policy change
Right.
within our law enforcement agencies, and we still see a spike
Mm-hmm.
of excessive use of force, numbers of unholstered guns around and within the Black and brown community, there needs to be an explanation.
Okay.
And that is what that report had identified, that there was still a higher frequency within the Black and brown community.
Okay.
So we need to understand why. Once we understand why, then we get those policy changes, whether it's through the changing of certification of our
Right.
police officers,
Right.
it could be training, or
Right.
it could just be, there needs to be a policy change.
Right. So the numbers clearly suggested that there is greater interaction between police officers among Black and brown people. And so right now you're looking at the impact of the policies and to see if the policies are going to help change the numbers and that the numbers are informing those policies.
I think I understand your question.
Right. Well, let me reframe it. Clearly, you've looked at the numbers. We know what the data says, and so now there are policies that have been created or being drafted, and you really want the numbers to inform the policies.
So a little bit of both.
Okay.
Because there's still discrepancy of the data.
Ah.
And so we're saying this data is not properly presented to
Gotcha.
the public.
So baseline is let's understand.
Let's
get on the
understand
same page about the data.
Yes.
Okay. And that's fair.
But still, we're also looking at, there needs to be training,
Right.
cultural competency training, and
Okay.
those types of things. Yes. And
Okay.
so we're in communication with our supervisors, we're in communication with our police department, and we're working with other community organizations on trying to develop the right solution for this issue.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so I'm sure at some point we'll hear more information about what the
Yes.
discoveries are.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Good. Well, anything else exciting and happening in the branch that you want to talk to us about?
Well, let's see. As you said, my background is environment.
Exactly.
So on a state level, I'm the Environmental and Climate Justice Committee chair.
Uh-huh.
And so there are a lot of policies that we're also, actually bills that we're tracking on a state level, in which there is an effort to remove the authority for some of the citizen boards that are tasked with providing key real-time perspective on permitting decisions.
Wow.
And so,
And when you talk about there is an attempt to remove them, we're talking specifically about, this new administration.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And we've got bills coming in from the House as well as the Senate. And so we've just been tracking those and making sure that they don't go through, because part of NAACP's mission, as I
Right.
said, is making sure everybody has access to the democratic process
Right.
and be able to understand it. And this was a very key and important component of that, to make sure that residents are able to have a strong voice about what is being approved to be built within
Right.
their own community.
Right. Right.
And so we want to make sure we protect that. And so
Wow.
we're working on a lot of different things. And then locally, there are other issues. The goal of the Environmental and Climate Justice Program is to make sure everybody has access to clean air, clean water, clean land, and that there are programs and processes to ensure a sustainable and viable community. So Lydia Lawrence, who's chairing that committee, has been working very diligently with a lot of different community organizations, making sure that everybody has access to a healthy tree canopy, for instance.
Okay.
We all know that our trees have a humongous benefit to either being able to lower the cost of,
Right.
of electricity. Heating and cooling a home can be lowered with adequate trees. Cleaning our air from pollutants.
Wow.
And it's also
Wow.
restorative.
Right.
You know, there is this prescription that doctors are now using for very mild medical cases. Instead
Wow.
of taking the aspirin, go out and take a walk in the forest.
Wow.
But if you don't have a forest,
Right. You
you
can't do that. Right. Right.
So
Aspirin
now
it is. Right.
aspirin
right,
it
right,
is.
right,
And
right.
we know how unhealthy
Right.
it is to get your body to be dependent on that,
Wow.
right? So go out and talk to nature. Forest bathing, there's so many
Yeah.
different things. And, you know, the more you go into the Black and brown community, you see less of these natural resources. You see less of this. You see less opportunities for people to go to parks and enjoy it with their families
Right.
and their friends and be able to have
Right.
those recreation amenities that we know are restorative, both
Right.
mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so they've been working on a lot of different initiatives, ensuring that we maintain our natural resources in the Black and brown
Right.
community.
So clearly, Karen, there is no shortage of work.
None.
So anybody who dares to ask the question, what's the NAACP engaged in? Why should I join? All they have to do is just listen to this conversation, go directly to the website. You have clearly articulated the many areas, the depth and the breadth of the work that you're engaged in. And I can't believe this is all done by volunteers.
All done by volunteers.
All done by volunteers. And so I really want to thank you all for what you do. I want to encourage anybody who is not a card-carrying member of the NAACP to register today, become a member today, and would you say join one of those committees?
I would say join one of those committees. And we didn't even talk about our health committee yet,
Wow,
our
wow,
economic development committee.
wow. And so those are some other areas in which people can engage in. Jeez.
And we
Yeah.
also have a Women in NAACP in which we focus on issues that impact women.
Wow.
There are a lot of different things. Our health committee looks at access to medical services, medicine, but it also has a component in making sure that people have access to restorative opportunities.
Wow.
Mental health is a huge issue.
Right.
And we've been struggling with COVID. And so we
Yes.
want to make sure that the
Yes.
Black and brown community has access to that,
Yes.
right? And our economic development, we want to make sure our Black-owned businesses have access to the funding and the technical resources to help build and grow their businesses.
So let me ask this: in the midst of everything that is going on around us, in the midst of the long list of things that remains on your to-do list and the branch's to-do list, you know, what is it that gives you inspiration? What is it that, you know, excites you and gives you the energy to continue to engage in this work? Because I said at the top of this program that sometimes it could perhaps be a thankless job.
It is a thankless job, but it isn't, because you do it for the future. And if you think of the kiddos, think of the youth, this is who we're trying to make it better for.
Right.
They're our future. You know, and we also have a youth council,
Okay.
and it's mainly high school students. And actually, they're going to have a Black History Month celebration at the next general membership meeting on February 24th at 7 p.m.
Oh, great.
And so we're going to see the wonderful work of these young
Okay.
adults. They're so inspiring and so brilliant. They always put on a great show.
That's
And
encouraging.
we also have a young adult, which are college-age students. And guess what? There's a George Mason chapter.
Wow. Great, great, great.
Yes,
So,
and so
so the branch is expanding. Right?
the George Mason chapter has been there for a few years.
Okay.
But they were certified last year. They were actually official.
That they're a standing branch of their own.
They're a standing branch of their own.
Wonderful.
And
So
they
we're
have the same
expecting
committees.
great things from them.
Yes.
Great, great things.
And I think she's the vice president, Elena, the vice president of the George Mason branch,
Right.
is the president of the state youth and college division.
Oh, wow. So there's intersection.
Yes.
Right? Right.
Yes.
Which really means they have a head start. They have a head start.
Yes.
Well, so much work to be done. And obviously, you can't do this alone. You are looking for volunteers. One more time, what's the website?
Our website is fairfaxnwaacp.org, and they can email me at president@fairfaxnwaacp.org or our membership chair at membership@fairfaxnwaacp.org.
Last thing, and then I'll let you go. I appreciate, again, the work that we're able to do together. But what about the larger faith-based community? Are there other ways in which the faith community can become more engaged? And would you welcome that?
I would absolutely be honored, and I would absolutely welcome it. We actually have a religious affairs committee.
Okay.
Leadership in this committee has been vacant, but I think I may have a committee chair.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
calling her on Thursday. We're
Right.
going to have a conversation.
Right.
And
Close
so
the
we're
deal.
gonna
Close
get
the deal.
that
Right.
going. But individually, or members of our ExComs, and especially with our relationship with you and just a couple other church around Fairfax County, we've always tried to make sure that we're talking to our religious leaders in Fairfax. That is very important to the branch.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for being a part of this Justice and Legislative Conversation series. Again, you are no stranger to us. We're so appreciative of your work. We're so appreciative of the work with the branch. I want to encourage all of you who are listening who are not members of the NAACP to consider today going directly to the website, sign up for a membership, make a donation, choose a committee, because at the end of the day, today, we may be safe and sound and may not think that we need the NAACP. This is also about future. And you never know when crisis is going to knock on our door. And so we want to make sure that organizations such as this are strong and vibrant, and so that anybody who needs the assistance of the NAACP and other organizations such as the NAACP, that they would be able to get the help that they need. And so I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. But if you really want to show your appreciation, if you really want to share and celebrate African American History Month, do not go to sleep tonight. Do not go to bed tonight without renewing your membership, signing up for one if you've never had one. Everybody ought to be a card-carrying member of the NAACP. And so thank you again, Karen, for joining us. And stay tuned, because we will have more conversations coming up, and we look forward to sharing these conversations with you. God bless. Have a great night.